Hello, everybody. This is Theodore with the Lies of the Devil YouTube channel. This video is about a gentleman who loved Kent Hovind, went and visited him often while he was in New Hampshire, in the New Hampshire prison, and I'm gonna let him just speak his story and give you some background, and then we'll get right into what he saw as red flags. And this is about protecting people. This is all about protecting people. For those watching that love Kent Hovind and that worship him, you know, there are a plethora of people, witnesses. Wake up. Wake up. Just because this man says that he's led however many people to the Lord and what blah, 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 this man he's just lying to you all. So okay, I'm gonna go ahead and leave it there. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, how you doing? Just letting everybody know, my name's Kevin, and I visited with Ken for over a year at the Berlin Federal Prison in New Hampshire. Like most of you, you knew Ken through doing his ministries and things like that. Excuse me. And I really enjoyed Ken's videos, and it drew me closer to Christ, but that's not really what this is about. This is about what's really going on. First of all, people need to know that things with Kent just don't seem right at all. When I was visiting with him, of course, at first it was things about, he was telling me about him being a science teacher and all these other things. Basically everything that you ever saw on Kent's videos, that's how he was at first. Okay. And it ended up that he wanted me to speak with someone by the name of Chris Jones. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is you've all seen, if you've seen Theodore's videos, you know who Chris Jones is. And I just do think that it's odd that Ken, being a Christian, that he would want anything to do with this man. You know what I mean? For the crimes that he's, accused of. Not only accused of, that he actually, in fact, was convicted of. I think that is really odd. And I never had fellowship with this man. I never called him or talked to him or anything like that. To speak with Chris, but Ken seemed to want me and other people, including some other people that have talked with Theo, like Billy, and other people to, have fellowship with this guy. And it just seems really odd. Why would you want someone to have fellowship with a convicted pedophile? I mean, this guy's convicted. It's not saying that he's, accused of. This guy is flat out convicted. I have a big issue with that. I have children, and I think it's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. And I want everybody to know that I was like a huge get Kent out of jail fan. You know what I mean? Like I was like, I wrote to congressmen. I did like everything that I could possibly do to, as Rudy Davis would say, shine light and make noise and things like that. But I think it was a bad idea. I know it wasn't a bad idea at this point. So,
as far as Chris Jones is concerned, I'm going to put his 7 indictments and his appeal. Okay. Chris Jones says that he, this whole Bohemian Grove conspiracy theory to throw him away. Well, in Chris Jones' appeal, he mentions nothing about Bohemian Grove. Isn't that kind of interesting? So I'm going to put the indictments and the links below so that you can go read it for yourself. Chris Jones would pick up Kent in a black limousine when he would go to California to speak, or some, I think it was California. Kent would brag about going into a black limousine that Chris Jones would pick him up in. And Chris Jones, in the indictments, was fondling children in the back of those limousines. So this isn't make noise and spread light. Where are the people spreading light and making noise about this? This is a very serious issue. Where's Rudy Davis? He's going out there and saying that anyway, sorry about that. So let's So after the Chris Jones thing, explain that you were at New Hampshire prison and you would go visit him, and just give us that tale. Give us the red flags and the things that you were seeing there, and how how Kent destroyed his family on purpose.
Um, I believe that Kent had said that, and by the way, I just want everybody to let everybody know, I believed Kent at that time. I did. I believed Kent. I mean, I'm not going to tell anybody any different. I'm not going to tell Theo or any of you any different. I believed what Kent was saying. Okay. I believed that his family, was against him and that they conspired and everything. And I am 100% wrong. 100% wrong. Kent is the one that did the conspiring against them, and anybody that doesn't believe that, well, some people they'll never believe anything that they're told. They just blindly follow, and I'm not blindly following anybody but Jesus, but I'm telling you right now that as far as other red flags and things like that, like when he of course this didn't happen while he was in prison, but after the fact, when I talked to Kent, he told me about that he had this big secret, that he was going to get married, and he was very joyful about it. He was going to get remarried to Mary Tocco, which I honestly don't even know her. I've never met her in my entire life. But he made it sound like it was some big secret, like it was something, like he was only telling just a few people, his closest friends. And the thing is Kent told a lot of people that same thing. It's a same thing with the Chris Jones thing. It's a rinse and repeat. And I never really understood why. I mean, what we have to gain from doing that, I really can't say, because it doesn't make any sense to me. It's not very rational, to me, for things like that. But as far as another red flag, that's something I probably should have paid more closer attention to, is I want to go on record, which I am right now. I had met with Eric. Eric was very kind to me, by the way. I want everybody to know this. I met Eric in New Hampshire, and I had mentioned to him that I was going to go up and visit with his dad. So Eric actually took the time out to visit with me and him, and a couple of his family members. We all went out to dinner. He was very kind, said prayer before dinner, and he ultimately ended up paying for my dinner. I mean, it was, I didn't expect him to do that, but I was talking about Kent, and, I was like, your dad's, been a great inspiration, and, and he brought me closer to Christ. And I didn't realize it at the time. There wasn't a whole lot said as far as about his father, but you could tell something wasn't right. And I don't mean that about Eric. I mean about Kent. But Eric kind of just, it's like when you want to say something, but you're not saying something, and I mean that very respectfully to Eric. You could tell that there was an uneasiness about his father. And looking back, I mean, I didn't understand it at the time, but looking back now, I understand why. And Eric, in a very short letter, I mean, it wasn't like a long drawn out letter. It was just something like real quick. And I don't remember the exact wording, so I'm not gonna don't quote me exactly on the words. But he basically said that he advised me against going up there to visit. Now, at the time, I thought he meant just because, the prison system, you don't want to go into a place like that. But looking back on it, I can definitely tell you that he meant it would be ill-advised to go and visit with his father. And for a child, Eric's a grown man, but for a son to say that, that means something. You know what I mean? I want you all to take into account that means something, that there wasn't something right with Kent, that he was, I can't go into words because it's more that feeling. You had to have been there at that time.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And look back on it. You understand what I mean?
Oh, I get it. And that's what I'm trying to tell people, because even for me, when I was going through this, and, for instance, I met Kenny in the video. What's the video titled? Kent Hovind, Kent's DAL Witchcraft Ritual and Coronavirus Cover Up. Okay, that's the testimony of Kenny, who Kent says is some crack addict, and Ernest says he's missing teeth, which is a complete lie. The guy's an awesome dude. Okay, so I had lunch with him, and then this one right here, pedophile at DAL. When we were sitting talking, to go through this, and God, I think God shielded you, brother, because people that, like myself, I was fooled as well. Okay, I'm the first to admit. When you go through this situation with Kent, and then you come out the other end and you see him take his mask off, and it's traumatizing. All these people that have gone through this stuff have been traumatized, and it's still something that bugs with them. It still bugs them. And so Kenny and I were talking about how you don't see the puzzle coming together until you look backwards and you go, oh wow, that puzzle, that's the puzzle. So when you're watching these videos, if you're just watching this, watch this one, then the one next below that in the playlist, then below that, and it starts to make sense with you. And it's just like in reality, you don't realize really. Now going through this, I pay attention a lot closer to people's facial expressions, subliminal messaging, body language, even more so than words now, because it's more important. It tells you much more. But that's learning that. But it doesn't, you're right, it doesn't make sense. Some of these things, you don't even understand it until you look backwards and you go, ooh, that was creepy, or oh, that wasn't right. Like Kent would ask you, and you thought he was behind, he would say, I'm behind enemy lines, brother, I'm behind enemy lines. But he would ask you to basically break the law and do things that were wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the end that's what Kent does. I think, and you'll have to. I hope that you can correct me on this, because some things the way I say things may not come out correctly, but this is how I see this as far as. Would you call this situation, like, I don't mean with me, I mean like with anybody that follows somebody that believes in somebody, that it's more of a cult of personality. Mm-hmm. It's like you get drawn to that personality and you believe that they are that person. You know right. what I mean? It's like believing that, Santa Claus, you know what I mean? And then you find out that Santa Claus is not really Santa Claus. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Right.
And it's very disheartening.
That's right.
It's very disheartening and it's very disappointing, and I'm not doing this lightly either. It bothers me because I believed that he was the person that he portrays in his videos and and things like that. But the truth is that's not really how it is. And this is coming from a person that considered him to be a very good friend. And I'm very disappointed.
Yeah.
So.
It is. It's a cult of personality. It's like these Hollywood actors that are out there. They're not even who they really are. They're these things that they put out on the Hollywood screen. Yeah. And a lot of times, like with Jeffrey Epstein, and his pimp, the lady that was running his sex trafficking ring, she just got arrested, and you find out that a lot of these people that are out there in the public that pretend to be something, it's not who they are. They're vicious, nasty people. Like Jeffrey Epstein, for instance, these people are out there molesting children. I'm not saying, with Kent, you can dot the I's with Kent, and I'm not saying he's any of these type of monsters, but what I'm trying to get at is it's an act. They put out an act in public. People buy into it, but they have ulterior motives. They're sick in the head. They do things that we wouldn't even fathom doing, because it's not normal.
Yeah.
So and I just want to mention this. This is my 2 cents, and then we can go on to another subject. But
sure.
Steven Anderson and Kent Hovind were best buds up until Kent was marrying his second wife, and the beans were, and the truth was coming out that Kent was basically emotionally cheating on Joe. Then when that came out, then Steven came out with his like Macho Man Randy Savage, let's rip face and let's call out evil. Well, his children, his eldest, 19 years old, and if what's being reported is true, is a pedophile. His children, his oldest sons were grooming a 12 and 13-year-old in very deviant sexual stuff, and Steven's trying to hide it. He's gotten rid of families. He's kicked families out because he doesn't want any of the information to come out. So it's the same thing with Kent and Chris Jones. Don't talk about it. Cover it up. I'm a man of God. Don't say anything about it. And if you go against me, you're out at DAL, or whatever the case being, or we're going to gaslight you, or we're going to slander your name so that nobody believes you. And you're sitting here just like, hey, I just want the truth to come out. I'm just trying to tell people the truth. And like you said, people that if they want to worship him, they will be blind. They will be blind, and they will voluntarily worship him. But people that have the Holy Spirit, eventually God is going to knock on your heart and be like, hey, listen, open your eyes. This is the truth.
Yeah. I mean, this is definitely a conscious thing, it's something like pulling at you saying, something's not right. And I don't believe that that's just your conscience. I believe it's like a pull from God.
Yep.
I'm not saying that God's talking to me or anything like that. I'm not one of those people, God says this or that. I know for a fact that Jesus Christ is God, and I'm going to tell you right now that, God doesn't put something to you that he doesn't want you to know. You know what I mean? In other words, he's there telling you, something is wrong, and I realize that everybody has their thoughts and things like that, but I'm telling you right now, if the Lord pulls you in a direction, and it's towards him, and the Lord never pushes you away, he pulls you towards him.
Amen.
And I'm telling you right now, I'm telling everybody right now that there's a lot of stuff going on, that is stuff I don't personally know about, but I'm telling you from things that I know about. I'm not telling fabricated stories, or I'm not saying things that have truths or anything like that. I'm just telling you from what I saw from my experience. I'm telling you the good, the bad, and the ugly, so to speak. I'm just telling you from my personal experience, and my personal experience doesn't seem so personal anymore because other people have experienced the same thing, like Billy and so many other people that have, come in contact with Kent over, whatever period of time that they come in contact with him. And like I said, I defended him vigorously. With Rudy Davis, I went on and pleaded with people to write letters and get Ken out of prison and things like that. I made two very heartfelt pleas to people to try and help Kent. But I'm telling you right now, I think that was the biggest mistake I ever made in my life, and I don't say that lightly. I think, I wish I had never gotten, into the so-called shining light and making noise movement to get Ken out of prison, because the simple fact is he's not who he says he is, and that's a fact.
You made a comment, and it was right on, that God, he always draws you. It's always pulling you near him. He doesn't, if there's a feeling in your spirit, in your gut, and you're like, okay, something's wrong here, or I'm not getting all the truth, or I need to learn the truth, and God is pushing you in a different direction. It's to draw you closer to him. That was powerful. That was really, really good.
Yeah.
And for me, I look at it and I understand your sentiment that you wish you would have never got involved in it. It was the worst mistake of your life. I don't think so. How I look at it, brother, is I didn't know anything about Kent. I was just trying to help him because I know that there's evil people in the government, and I believed him. I was bamboozled like everybody else. And God put me in the position to be there and to learn all this information, to stand up to him, and God just used me for that. And he's using you for your testimony and everybody else that's come forward. And it's, I just thank God that he's opening up people's eyes. And so that's how I look at it, brother. That's how I look at it. Like you said, God draws you nearer. And if that was something that just happened at the moment, for all things work together for good to those who love, who are called according to his purpose, Christ's purpose. You know what I mean? That's the way I look at it.
Exactly.
So, go ahead.
No, I was going to say go on.
Okay. So let's, if there's anything else you'd like to say, go ahead, say it. Otherwise, I was going to just wrap it up and go through the Bible. Actually,
at this point, I do have this to say. I am going to be sending a letter that I was asked to read to somebody for Kent. That I was asked to read, and I thought that I was doing something right by reading this letter to the person, a friend of his. Now, I personally don't know this gentleman that I read the letter to, and I no longer have the gentleman's phone number or information or anything like that. It's been so many years, but I am going to be sending Theo a copy of it. Or I can actually even send him the original copy of it. And Theo is, if you want, you are more than welcome to read it on your YouTube channel, and you can show it.
Okay, I appreciate that, brother. And let's just say this, people. I'm just gonna say this, and then we'll get straight into God's word. Pay close attention. Go watch the video. Audio, Kent's CEO, we all know he is hiding money. Go watch that video. Ernest Land, when the Kent Hovind Wolf in Sheep's Clothing video came out, I was putting out teasers, and one of them was the audio of Ernest Land talking about Kent. They got a hold of that, and they knew that I had this audio of Ernest Land admitting that Kent's lawyer, him, they all know he's hiding and transferring money, but they have to keep quiet about it. Let's just say that go listen to that audio, and then when it came out that Kent was hiding money and transferring money, they tried to lie and say that it was a Stripe account and that I had access to the Stripe account and I changed all the information. It was all done through PayPal, and they changed the passwords. So I don't know what bank account they're talking about, but maybe somebody should look into that. Let's go into 2 Peter chapter 2. People pay very close attention. 2 Peter chapter 2. But there were false prophets. And yes, Kent thinks he's a prophet. He admits it out loud. He admits that he thinks that all the people that are there at DAL are prophets. He said that in a video. He's public about that. But there were false prophets also among the people, even as there shall be false teachers among you who privily shall bring in damnable heresies, even denying the Lord that bought them, and bring upon themselves swift destruction. And many shall follow their pernicious ways, by reason of whom the way of truth shall be evil spoken of. Do you listen to that right there? By reason of whom the way of truth shall be evil spoken of. People telling the truth, and these individuals coming out and saying, oh no, that's evil. Don't speak the truth. Okay? And we know the truth is Jesus Christ, and we know that Christ abhors evil. Okay, that's a very powerful statement right there by God. And through covetousness shall they make feigned words and make merchandise of you. Isn't Kent selling you DVDs? Isn't he selling you, getting the donations? Whose judgment now of long time lingereth not, and their damnation slumbereth not. So, 2 Peter chapter 2 is an amazing chapter that is telling us what to look out for. Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through Christ which strengtheneth me. John 8:32, ye shall know the truth, and the truth will make you free. And brother, you know what? Thank God that he's using you for this time. And I'm gonna hit stop here, and I want you to stay on the line.